Hello, and thank you for listening to the Keto Answers podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Anthony Gustin, and joining me again this week is Alex Cunningham, asking me some questions that you guys have asked. So this week we get into it and we answer things about, okay, you're losing your hair? What's going on? We get off of it a little bit and talk about where Perfect Keto is going to be, how people should start a business and what they should think about, sun exposure, and then we get into a little bit of a rant about the carnivore diet, my updated thoughts on the carnivore diet, and then how I felt and how Alex felt about going off of keto when we were in Thailand for the Perfect Keto retreat. So a lot of golden nuggets here. Tune in, and I hope you enjoy. Before we get to the episode, I wanted to chat about our sponsor, Perfect Keto. Perfect Keto is all about making a ketogenic diet healthy and accessible. Whether you're reading all of our online guides or articles or enjoying Perfect Keto's exogenous ketones or any other keto-friendly products, everything you need to make keto work for you is at perfectketo.com. I know what you're thinking. Hey, aren't you the founder of Perfect Keto? Yep, that's right. And all of my insanely high standards have been put into making each and every product. My background as a functional medicine clinician helps me craft the cleanest and healthiest possible products and best information about the ketogenic diet. Head on over to perfectketo.com to learn anything you need to know about the ketogenic diet. And if you've never tried any of our products before, feel free to use the code KETOPODCAST for 20% off your first order. That being said, let's get into the show.
All right.
Let's run it. Q&A number 3. Co-host Alex Cunningham, Slam Chaps 1. How are you doing today?
We're doing good. Is this on?
It's on.
All right, let's do it.
We're rolling, man.
Going for a three-peat like my Golden State Warriors.
Jeez, this is one of these guys again.
Ring ceremony last night.
3-peat like my Minnesota Lynx.
Ooh.
Yeah, baby. Actually, I don't even know if they 3-peated it. They've been dynasty mode. That's all I know.
They certainly will at some point.
Let's hope so. All right, let's cruise it.
Okay. Diving right in, the questions. First one comes from V. Ballard. He says, help. I'm losing. Oh, perhaps.
It is.
It is. Oh, I apologize. I actually just have a male friend whose last name is Ballard. That's why I assume that.
It's fine. She'll understand.
Okay. Okay, help. I'm losing my hair. What should I do? Ketosis is too awesome to quit.
You're right. Ketosis is awesome. Don't quit it. What's probably happening here, and again, it's not your medical advice. This is just maybe some discussion around it. So please go see your doctor if you're concerned. What can happen, and I think we discussed this in the Chris Irving podcast of the how to break through plateaus, or maybe the Ali Miller RD one. I think we discussed it in that one as well. But a lot of times this is common. What I see in people is that, especially females, they switch to a ketogenic diet. They undereat, especially protein, but total food, and they're working out like crazy. And so the body has so much stress on it. They're not getting enough food and they're not getting enough protein. And so basically you freak out. You can have thyroid problems. This is not good. And that is the case. So for a lot of these things, one, if you're doing it for weight loss, do not go extreme. You do not need to undereat a radical amount to lose fat on a ketogenic diet. There's actually done studies where you can stay at the same amount, if not eat more, and lose fat. So it's a really interesting point. We have a lot to learn still about fat loss and ketosis. So you do not need to restrict to like 800, 1,000, 1,200 calories a day. It's problems. Not good. 2, eat protein. Like you need to eat protein in a ketogenic diet. People think that if you eat protein over 12 grams a day on a ketogenic diet, that you're going to go out of keto magically. And we've covered this maybe 1,000 times now, but for me and for you, co-host Kun, that we've done a carnivore diet, and we have seen that even eating upwards of 200-300 grams of protein a day, no effect on ketosis levels. So do not be afraid of protein and probably get more of it. 3, if you're working out, again, these are all assumptions. So I'm sorry if I'm making those. Little context here. So this is all I got. 3, if you're working out like crazy to try to lose fat, which again, I see a lot of people who have the same problem. So again, not saying this is you, V. Ballard, but what happens is, one, like working out excessively is not really a good strategy to lose fat in the first place. It's good. Like I think exercise is good, but you don't need to do excessively. So like doing CrossFit every single day, like doing like kill yourself workouts all the time, like not a good strategy. Usually the more moderate you can keep workouts, especially if you're transitioning your metabolism to a completely different state, it's too much. It's too much. Like you need rest, you need to recover. So some days you push it, some days you don't, and just chill out a little bit. That's what I think.
Gotcha. And I totally relate to this because I actually noticed like some thinning in my hair and kind of like my skin looked kind of frail when I was in my first year of keto. And I thought, well, I just need to eat less protein. surely I'm just not in keto enough.
Interesting.
And so I went that direction. And it was honestly not until the carnivore experiment where I just ate pretty much unlimited protein and felt better. So
full
super
locks,
grateful you.
Full head.
The bald spot still exists, but what are you going to do?
Stem cell therapy.
Yes. Or a wig.
Yeah. So someone very close to us that just got stem cell therapy in their skull to try to prevent hair loss and stimulate hair growth.
Really?
I'll fill you in after the episode who that is.
Oh, those results are in?
We'll see. I'll be able to ask him or her what she thinks afterwards. All right, a little bit of a tangent. Let's go to question number 2 here.
This comes from S. Lee Wiley. He or she asks, where do you see Perfect Keto a year from now?
Oh, boy.
So that would be what? Mid-October of 2019.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a very interesting time. I think that we're going to continue to do our best in answering everybody. Like the goal with Perfect Keto, if you guys don't know, is to just make ketogenic diet easier for everybody.
You had that conversation with me the first time I met you about working for you, and we sat in Whole Foods, and you said, this is not about the products. This is about the conversation that each product is going to start with each person that has it in their hands.
Wow, that's compelling.
You had me at that statement.
Yeah, so I mean that's the goal. So I have a very clear path forward in how I think that product can handle that. We're also building out a crazy team that is going to help with education. We've already published ridiculous amount of content that I think is very helpful. I think that we're going to continue in that route as well and continue to listen to people about what they need to make ketogenic diet easier for them. I think it's such a useful tool. I don't think it's for everybody. I don't think it can fix everything magically, but I think that that's why we're doing Q&A podcasts. That's why I do this podcast in general, because it's so complicated. It's not easy. It's
the
easy,
more answers, the more questions pop up.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's so much stuff here that we're learning more every day. We're seeing where people get hung up every day. And that's becoming more apparent, and that's going to change as we go along. So we're going to continue to adapt to make this thing easier for everybody else. Where does that take us as far as a location and team and everything else like that? I mean, as far as where I see Perfect Keto in a year from now for internally, like I just want to continue to build an amazing thing that I want to show up to and be around awesome people every single day. It's been wild the last couple of months, of course, and I think that we're going to continue on that route. But yeah, just having high standards internally and externally. So only putting out information we consume, only putting out products we consume, only bringing on people that I think are going to help that mission and live up to our values. So yeah, it's important stuff. It's important work, in my opinion. I mean, if you're curious about what those values are, we put up a page, perfectketo.com/culture, where it goes about all those values. And so I think that just continuing to live those out day over day internally, and hopefully using those to help people down the road. And so, yeah, I have no idea. If you told us we'd be where we're at a year ago, wouldn't have believed you. If you told us, well, a year before that, we didn't even exist. So
yeah,
isn't that crazy? Coming up on the 2-year mark, though, November 20 something, 2 years, 2-year anniversary. Well, cheers.
We certainly will. It's awesome though. Like I really get a thrill when when you can see us like providing an alternative to what's conventional out there. Like if you type in for a recipe that's normally carb heavy, sometimes we show up on the first page as the low carb alternative. And I just know that folks are searching for one meal, and then they notice ours and might go with that, and like that's just one little way. But things like that get me fired up. Next question, Janik Onjetic.
Pretty cool name. I like that.
Good
ring.
J.
Good ring.
JJ. Any advice for someone starting their own business? Can't wait to hear.
Whew, yeah. A lot. I'd say a lot. Number one thing that I would do is try to solve one of your own problems. That's how I've kind of approached all of my things. It was like, I've done a lot of different businesses. I've done a lot of different things. And I've always kind of started figuring out what problems that I have. Because like, that's what you're going to be most passionate about. Like if you look at a market opportunity and try to do that just to make money, yeah, you're going to lose. Like you're going to have a miserable time. You're going to,
as soon as you hit one challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only that, but then you'll hit a goal or like you'll actually achieve something and you won't be motivated to continue. And so I don't know, it's kind of a double-edged sword where like, I think that there's enough stuff that people want to solve for themselves that I think that, so this is going to sound really messed up, but I think that like being able to free up your time and money is a good thing so you can focus on bigger problems. And so that's why I think like switching to something where you can help people at scale, that I like when I was working with people one-on-one and I had to show up and do patient visits. I loved it. It was great work. It was very satisfying. I was helping a lot of people, but it was very limiting to how many people I could help. And I had to like, it just didn't jive well with who I was as a person. Every day for me is very different. And some days I wake up and I want to do one thing, and some days I wake up and I want to do another thing. And to have 6.5 days a week dictated by other people's schedules at all times, it's just not a way that I operate. And so freeing up my time to me was important. For some people, they don't mind. And then after that, like if you have to worry about paying for your next meal or paying bills every single month, I think that is a struggle for people. I think that you can't think big and you can't solve problems for other people, and you can't be really useful to the rest of the world if you're thinking about that stuff. So I think that business and opportunities is really important if you want to solve those things and you want to do bigger challenges. I think it's super important. Do I think that you need to find certain market opportunities to solve those problems? No. I also don't think that people generally need a lot of money to solve that problem. Like after a certain point, it really doesn't matter. I don't think the number is like 50-some thousand or something like that. I think it's probably higher than that if I were to assume for most people in most cities. But even still, like I've taken $0 out of Perfect Keto. I've made no money. I've actually lost money. And so like that, I mean, it's just, I've been lucky that in the past I've had enough where I don't have to do that, but it's not like I'm doing this business to make money. And this is the thing that I think some of the team members, when I said that at a retreat a couple of weeks ago, were probably a little surprised.
Surprised, inspired.
But yeah, like I don't think you need to do it to make money. And I think that if you start there, you're going to fail. And this is something that I think people don't realize. And I think the thing that's most motivating for people is that like them having a problem in their life and creating a solution that they realize is really awesome for them to have it exist in the world when it hasn't before. But not only that, seeing that other people had that problem and they get to solve it with your idea and how that comes to life. And whether that's information, or whether that is like, for instance, I had a different one called like this little, I don't know if you even call it a company, but we had me and my friend, I went to school with him. He's also a chiropractor. His name's Ryan DeBell, Dr. Ryan DeBell. We had a company together called Health Fit Business. And so what we did with that is it was essentially the problem that we had originally was how do we make a business that's not a service business? We acquired knowledge and then passed that solution on as knowledge and then did that. So if you're worried about how to start a business and you're, for instance, a PT or a trainer or a chiropractor or an MD or anything like that, we have 50, 60 episodes of podcasts. We basically did all the information that we had on it, and we had different problems we want to solve. So we moved on. But like sometimes it can be information. Sometimes it can be a tangible product. You know, like I wanted supplements. I was spending money on supplements originally that I wanted cleaner solutions that didn't exist. So that's when I made Equip, which was before PureWOD. I had a lot of trouble when I was younger with physical pain and musculoskeletal stuff, sports injuries. I wanted to help people fix that stuff. And so I went to school and I learned that, and I created a clinic where I did that. And so like there were things that were innately motivating to me that I had struggled with in the past that I wanted to help other people with. So I think that if you start there, it's going to become so easy moving forward. I had problem with both with myself, the ketogenic diet when I first started on it, because it was so hard because the products and the information were so confusing. And with patients, like seeing that as a problem, like, okay, I wasn't the only one. My patients all have this problem. Everybody has this problem. I'm gonna try to fix this. And that's where we are today. And so I don't think that chasing opportunity is the right step. I think that you have to look at where you are, what problems you have. If it's a problem you've already solved that other people have, do that and figure out how to fix it. That's how it starts.
That's awesome. It just reminds me of the first episode of Health Fit Biz when you guys talk about going from 10 to 10,000 and just asking yourself that confronting question, like, how could I, solve this problem for other people, but do it to 10,000 people rather than 10 people?
Yep. And here we are, different scenario.
Moving on. Switching from business to sun exposure. This comes from Christian DePape. They ask, I'd be curious to hear your take on sun exposure. What's a healthy amount? What's your take on sunscreen? And how does diet affect sun exposure?
Ooh, good question. And this is one that I don't dig into enough, but this is another thing where your body has figured this out over the course of time, and the more you try to screw with it, the more it's going to screw you. And it's the same with nutrition. The more we try to like fix things that aren't really problems, then the more problems arise.
Mm-hmm.
And so my take on this, healthy amount. The amount is as much as you can get without burning is the healthiest amount.
I've had a dermatologist tell me that, any sun exposure is causing damage.
It's just not true. Like they've shown this so many times throughout research that like it's just mind boggling. Whose book was I reading last year so Michael Ruscio has a good bit in his book about this because it actually affects gut health. But like there's so many myths about sunscreen and sun exposure. Like sun exposure doesn't inherently cause skin cancer. It actually, so when you use I think in his book, again, look at this for the source, but women who used sunscreen had higher incidences of like several different cancers than women who didn't. Like you have more chance to get skin cancer if you use sunscreen than if you don't.
That's wild.
So why is that? Why is that the case? Okay, so what is burning and what is that? It's basically a warning from your body to say, "Hey, dummy, get out of the sun. It's too much." Okay, and so some people with their skin types can only spend 40 minutes outside in direct sunlight before they start burning, and obviously you build up a tolerance to that. That's what it is. When you put on sunscreen, generally, unless you use the super extreme stuff that literally creates a layer and it's basically like wearing clothes, so the sun, like the UV rays, can't get to your skin, which is only like a very slim amount of sunscreen. You take away your body's warning signal to be able to tell your body or tell yourself that like, hey, this is too much. And so you can stay in the sun all damn day and not be burned.
So it's like removing the smoke alarm?
It's moving the smoke alarm. It's the same thing we do all over the place. So, okay, our cholesterol's high because our inflammation's high. Well, let's take a medication to lower that. Okay, well, let's just keep inflammation high. Like we're not looking at why that is the case. And this is just a very simple case of you can tolerate so much and that's good. But after that, don't do it anymore. And so you take away that alarm system. Like, would you take away the check engine light on your car? Why would you do that? Stop doing that. It's just a very simple mechanism. Your body knows. And it's not the case where you have a little bit of sun exposure or any of it and it causes any kind of skin cancer. It's not true. It's not true.
So say we had a day in Thailand where we were going to be out in the sun for about 8 hours. Did you put on any sunscreen that day? Or what's your strategy?
So that day I actually did because I was going to be, here are the strategies here. Okay. So if you did this every time you're in the sun, not a good idea. Okay. What's the next alternative? Be in the shade.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we were going to be out swimming around, hiking around, doing a lot of stuff. I also like the next one is like wear clothes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I didn't have a long sleeve, basically jumpsuit to wear when I was swimming. Some people do that. They have swimming clothes and all this different stuff. Good. Kudos to you. I didn't have that. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna mess myself up. I'm not gonna get royally burned, which is not great. That's where a lot of these malignant cancer cells come from. So yes, you don't want that, but you also don't want you're just gonna just continually fry. And so here are the options. 1, get out of the sun. 2, wear clothes. 3, if you very much have to, then sure, use it. But even at that, it's like I wasn't gonna do that every time. Then I went to a different island a couple days later and I was going to be in the sun all day. Feeling a little hot, a little spicy. I got out of the sun. That's why I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I just removed myself from the offending thing.
So say if I get a little bit of sun, is that basically a low grade burn? Is that damaging?
No, like you will know if you're burned.
Okay.
Don't burn yourself. That's it. That's like saying, okay, your stove is on and there's heat.
Mm-hmm.
And you put your hand over it and it's warm and then you remove it and you go, is that damaging? No. If you held it there and you actually physically burned it, yes, that's damaging. Right? But what if you were able to take a pill where you swallowed it or you put a little spray in your hand and you put your same hand over that and then it wasn't able, like you didn't have the sense of your hand was burning. That's what doing sunscreen is like.
Wow.
Why would you do that?
I never knew this.
Right. It's crazy. This is one of these things that to me is just, and you probably think this way now, So very simple. So very simple. Bad timing because the season we're getting off of summer, but Austin went from 90 degrees till 40 degrees overnight for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big fan, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that I think that not keto related, not nutrition related, but it's totally important.
What about, do you try to get sun exposure the first thing in the morning?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why people do that. That has nothing to do with sunscreen, sun not, or whatever. Like, you're not going to get burned from that. But yeah. How does diet affect sun exposure? So certain things, like for instance, astaxanthin and zeaxanthin and things like that. I've noticed that if I take a ton of that, so your skin cells are more prepped to deal with sun exposure, and you hold like color longer.
Interesting.
Fun fact. I don't know any other. I'm sure there's tons of other nutrients out there. It's the one little hack that I know.
So what's happening on a cellular level when you are getting a sunburn?
I can't answer that directly, but I mean, this is something that is clearly not good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, yeah. So I'm not even going to go into it because I'll probably screw that up, but yeah, not good. Yeah. I mean, I can somewhat answer what happens when you put your hand over a stove and you get blisters on it because it's burned, but it doesn't mean that, like, it's obviously bad.
Yeah.
So avoid it.
Gotcha. Next question comes from Tim Sertree. Saytree. They ask, any updates on your opinions of the carnivore diet?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot here. I think there's a lot to unpack. I think that it's starting to frighten me.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's starting to frighten me because I think that people are getting very confused about the utility of it, why it could be working, who it could be suited for, and who it could not be great for. So I've talked a lot about in the past, like why I think it's helpful. So I tried it out. I think it was great. Why I tried it out is because I thought that, okay, all these people are having these positive benefits. Why is that the case? I don't know. Let's try it out. Let's figure it out for myself.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a lot of research, so we don't know. Look, there's a lot of question marks here. So I wanted to figure it out. I want to do my own investigative research. And so I did it for 5.5 weeks. Felt a lot of great things and had some hypotheses. A lot of them have to do with, I think it's basically a gut reset. You take away all fiber. It's pretty much a gut protocol, but you're still eating food, which is good. I think that a lot of times people have sensitivity to foods. And so removing this is like basically like a food elimination diet. Okay, that's great. I think that it's a lot of, and this is again a complete hypothesis, but a lot of times what is good about plants is that they stress you on a very small scale. Okay, if you do that just like a workout, if you're stressed out from a workout, okay, it's great. So you go work out one day and then you recover and you work out the next day. But if you overtrain yourself from a physical standpoint from working out too much, not really great. I think that sometimes people can do that from a cellular standpoint from eating too many plants. Okay. So if that's the case, then removing that for a little bit can be like a recovery time for yourselves. Awesome. But I'm just like, there are still a lot of good, like we know that working out is good for you. So if you're sore from working out and you stop working out for the rest of your life or stop moving for the rest of your life, wouldn't be a good idea, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we'll probably have a lot of the same things with the carnivore diet, or I wouldn't necessarily recommend it lifelong in perpetuity for everybody. And we have some examples of some people who've done it for 10, 15, 20 years. Okay, fine. 2 years, whatever. There are some people who might respond really well to it like that. But having everybody like jump on it with this fervor of veganism or like close to it that's what's frightening to me.
It feels like it's coming on.
Yeah, like really, really strangely. In the way of like people are like, if people aren't doing carnivore, they get pissed at them. And like, they talk shit to vegans and like, just do your thing, you know, and like figure out what works best for you. And if you think this is it, that's great. But like the amount of like people just want extreme stuff all the time. I mean, look at our last election cycle and talk about extremes. I mean, people are just seeking this so hard. And like that, this is probably a way deeper conversation that doesn't need to go that way. But we have just such a, like, if not this, all of that. And I think people crave that right now. I think that that's feeding some of this stuff. And so like people are maybe going from a standard American diet to eating carnivore. And of course they feel good. They're eliminating 90% of the bullshit that they eat.
Yeah.
And is it good maybe short term for people for a gut reset? Yeah, it can be great. Should people do it indefinitely for no reason? I don't think it's a good idea. Just like I don't think moving the rest of your life is a good idea. And so I think that with appropriate use to it, see how you feel, doing that sometimes, resetting hunger patterns, getting better relationship with food is a good thing. Like, I don't think it's bad in the short term. I don't think it's destructive over the course of 3, 4, 5 months, probably even a year. But it's like a lot of micronutrient deficiencies and a lot of weird things that like we still don't know. Like, yes, vitamin C, we don't need as much of it because it competes with carbohydrate intake. So if you reduce carbohydrates, you don't have as much of a need for vitamin C. But like, how many people do you know that are eating enough raw meat or liver on a carnivore diet to actually get any vitamin C? Yeah, people are eating like bullshit stuff. And like most of the people in the carnivore space, like don't even recommend people to eat organ meats and high quality meat, which is baffling to me.
I can't imagine doing carnivore on trash meat.
Yeah. And this is the thing where like people are going so hard in this direction of like, yeah, I'm going to only eat that. So I'm going to get just $2 ribeyes from Safeway and eat those by the pound. It's like, okay, like let's get some organ meats in there. Let's get some high quality meats. Let's not go like the trash route ever for any type of nutrition. And people like simplify it so much too far. Like there's going to be problems that we'll see in many years, I think. And nutritional, like micronutrient deficiencies don't really work with like, okay, well, so we don't have vitamin C needed as high. Okay, if we're not getting basically any because we're eating nutrient deficient animal products, plus not the forms that we should be getting it in. Like these are just a few of the nutrients, right? So yeah, maybe we're not getting scurvy, but with vitamin C, with vitamin D, with a lot of these different things, vitamin E, there's just like you have a spectrum of how you respond to things. And so once you have like a very baseline level of amount of something, you don't have overt diseases, but you'll have your body can't recover from DNA splits as well. Your body can't recover from micro things as much. It's not like vitamin C does one thing in your body. It's not like it prevents you from getting scurvy and that's it. Mm-hmm. It does hundreds, if not thousands of things. Same thing with all micronutrients. And so once you get a very tiny level above RDA sometimes, or even like close to that, like, yeah, you prevent a lot of disease, overt disease that's very measurable directly, but you're kind of selling your body short on everything that it could be doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're taking away like the immediate risk, but you're not giving yourself enough to thrive. And so I would rather thrive long term. And so I want to make sure that I'm having as much of a lot of these things as possible. It's like, yeah, liver is the most micronutrient dense thing. Of course, we've talked about that many times. But does it cover every single micronutrient that you need? No. Does it?
Gotcha.
Like, it's a very skewed thing. Like, it's one representation of micronutrients. That's it.
So is it something where like your body has a reserve of these micronutrients and then it'll be depleted as time goes on?
Yeah, for a lot of nutrients, that's the case. And so when vegans switch over to a vegan diet and they feel great for a while, but don't supplement with B12, like vitamin B deficiencies sometimes cannot show up for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And so same thing with a lot of these other things with carnivore diets. Like we are so far from knowing the ramifications potentially long term, where it's like, if you want to do it short term, totally fine. Like also, if you're at a point where like Michaela Peterson or like some of these other people who like literally are dying unless they do it. And I know some people like that. Like this is okay. I would rather like if you can remove excruciating pain and depression and maybe have a long-term nutritional deficiency in something, like probably a good trade-off. But if you're just a general dude who wants to eat meat, like you can eat a lot of meat. That's fine. But like add in some other stuff. Like put in some microgreens. Like this is what I do. Add avocados, like add some nuts and seeds, like round it out a little bit.
Yes. I noticed you tinker with your plant intake. Like sometimes you do a huge dose of microgreens powder. What's kind of like been your best for plant intake? Is it a certain amount of days? Is it a certain amount of volume?
Yeah, I think it depends for like how I'm feeling. Honestly, I think that it's a lot of it's convenience. A lot of it's just kind of I listen to what my body wants. And so, like for instance, I was not working out as hard when we were traveling. I had hotel gyms, things like that. I was gone for a month. I got back. I hit a hard workout yesterday. I woke up today. I'm like, I need to eat a steak now. And so like, I knew like I needed meat immediately.
And you know that feeling too when your body's craving a salad. I've felt that.
Yeah, exactly. And so like it's hard to be in tune with your body, man. You need to start with eating real food. Like this is one of the things like it's tough. It's like I want people sometimes to go extreme because they will then kind of recalibrate back at a certain point. But if you're just going from a standard American diet, like you don't need to go all the way to these extremes sometimes. Like the best first step in any nutrition plan is to eat real food.
Yeah.
And if you're vegan, if you're carnivore, if you're whatever, like eating the highest quality real food you can get your hands on is the best first step. But people don't do that. Like they skip that step. And like then we're starting, when we get into being dogmatic about it, then we skip those steps and we don't care about it. And so that's what frightens me about it. It's like we're getting so deep into it where we're not giving a shit about the quality food we're eating and like what types of food we're eating.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Like getting attached to an ideology. And I remember feeling very, very attached to paleo. And it was tough to, kind of be open to keto because I'd never done it before. But that's what I think is exciting about doing little diet experiments on yourself is, you try something that might not work and you see how it goes for you. And then you can keep it in your toolbox.
Yeah. I learned a lot from the carnivore diet. I learned that eating a lot of meat doesn't kick me out of ketosis.
Yeah.
I thought that was the case for a long period of time. So now I feel comfortable upping my protein more than when I had it. And I feel great. It's like, that was a good thing for me to learn. I learned that I was snacking way too much. So when you remove that stuff and you keep your meal that strict, like you're going to regulate a lot of stuff with your appetite and with what you like, really understand your food habits. And so I realized like, oh shit, I'm just eating a lot because I'm bored.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to work. So I'm like distracting myself with food.
Floating around the kitchen.
Exactly. I learned that my appetite was probably out of control because I was making my food too damn tasty. And so like meat is good. I like meat. But when you restrict something to one type of food, you only eat as much as your body needs. And so I go, oh, okay. I need to simplify my meals a little bit more. And I need to stop like, because like you could probably test this. I can cook a pretty tasty meal.
Salad king.
Barbecue king. Sauce boss. Grill master. Like fish aficionado. We could go on and on.
Dude, you make a mean Tom Kha guy too.
Yeah. So like I love cooking. I love making food taste well and tasty and amazing. But like,
and the smoothies.
Yeah. God, yeah. See everything. But when stuff tastes good, you're going to eat more of it. Yeah. And so when you can eat 15 really good tasting things in a day, you're going to overeat food. Like, it's not like I was overweight or anything like that. I felt fine. But I just realized like, holy shit, I'm eating too much food. I'm eating too much. And so like establishing that was a good thing. So I think there's a lot of positive things to take away from a short stint of it.
It's nice to keep meals simple too, is what I've noticed. Is like I would try to make my lunches be awesome and stuff like that. And then I realized like most work days, I just really want to get some food in, some quality food in. And I don't need to make it look like, it's ready for my food blog. like
the blueberry sauerkraut.
I asked you not to bring up the blueberry sauerkraut salad.
Capers, burger mayo extravaganza. Yeah, I mean, this is like, I used to like really go like, yeah, of course, try it out for a couple months, a month, see how you feel. But it's just like, people are like becoming really dogmatic about it, and that's freaking me out. And so I don't want to say, try it for a month and have somebody do it for 5 years. You're going to miss out on some real life experiences at that point. Again, if you're one of these people who has tried everything else and you're suffering, and this is the only thing that's helping you, I do not blame you for that at all. Like, please continue doing it. If you think you can do it for a month or 2 or 3, learn some stuff, and then try to tinker and see what you feel best with, and you want to go to these extremes and test that out, yeah, do that. But then also go vegan for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
See how that treats you. And people are so different. What might be good for you for carnivore might be terrible for someone else. And so this is the thing too, like nutrition is not all black and white. So you get some people feeling really good on a carnivore diet, and then they tell everybody that they have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Plants are bad. Plants will kill you. It's like, just shut up. Like, they clearly don't kill you. For some people, they might have some intolerances. Some people, they might have, again, like in the last episode, or was it this one? I don't remember. Where we talked about sometimes you can't actually recover from things. And so there's like, if I got hit by a bus, I would not probably perform the same in my life again. If you have a lot of internal metabolic damage and you have gut problems and all that stuff, you may not recover that. And so eating a lower amount of plants might be good for some people. but eating a lot of plants might be really good for some people. And so you can't make these blanket statements about nutrition. And I think that when people start making them definitively is when I get really afraid. And this is one of those times where I think that's starting to happen already, which is crazy. This is like not even a year old type of thing.
Absolutely. Like those blanket statements get us into trouble, and you can see it with the fat phobia in America.
Yeah. So my viewpoint is updated. I don't think it's the devil. I still will probably go times where I'll do a month or two of it at a time to reset a lot of things. I think that if you can do that and you feel good with it, go right ahead. But my viewpoint is getting a little more skeptical on the movement in general.
That leads into the very next question from K Walters 40. She asks, "Are you planning on doing a longer trial of strict carnivore diet anytime soon?"
No. I mean, I think that there are times where I'm probably going to do it again, just because I think that, again, it's a really good reset set. And certain times it's really simple. I just don't feel like it's necessary to push it any further intentionally. Yeah, I have no need to do that.
Caitlin Sarah Phelim, sorry if I messed that up. She asks, "Do you think it's sensible for people to try carnivore without blood testing?"
This goes back to my recommendation. Like if you try for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, I don't think it's going to matter from a blood testing. It's such a short period of time and overall how you're going to be approaching your nutrition. Like nothing's really going to affect blood markers in a catastrophic way that quickly. So I think you could eat McDonald's for a couple months and be fine over the long term. So I wouldn't be worried about that. Like there's nothing in a blood marker where if I saw something from a lab result and I would say like, oh shit, you should not do carnivore because this looks like that. It's like this stuff is so fixable. Like if it's a 5-year thing, maybe we're talking a little bit different. And so I would say no. If you want to try it out, don't worry about blood work before or after. That's just There's nothing that I would say like you shouldn't do it because you have this marker high or low.
Next carnivore question: Packinuck with a dash at the end asks, "Is an adapted 95/5 carnivore diet better than keto?" I'm assuming they're asking a 95% carnivore with a little bit of non-carnivore sprinkled in.
Is it better than keto? I would say for what? For what? I don't know. So like a lot of these things, like the context really matters. And so I would say for bodybuilding, maybe. For food intolerances, could be. But again, like keto, how? Real food keto? Or what I don't know, this silly term, dirty keto that's coming out.
Oh, dirty keto.
Yeah, dirty keto. If it's 100% grass-fed meat and broccoli sprouts versus cream cheese and bacon and like weird stuff like that, I'd say actually probably, yeah. Or like if you had liver and really great grass-fed meat and that stuff versus really shitty keto stuff, I would say, yeah, it's better. So I think we need a lot more context in this question. For fat loss, I mean, I'd actually say maybe. So there's another thing with me talking about a carnivore diet is that it could actually be really good with fat loss. Like I said, it regulates hunger in such a degree where like you can overeat fat so easily in a ketogenic diet. Like you can guzzle olive oil if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And you would have nothing in your brain that'd be like, okay, stop.
Yeah, or just by the time you have it in your mouth, you haven't even realized that.
Right.
You know what?
Whereas like as you're chewing down several steaks, you're like, fuck, no more. No more.
My mandibles.
And so like this is where I think that it actually could be good short term to get people get a better relationship with food and like have some kickstart with some fat loss. But long term, skeptical. Try it out if you want. Short term, see how you feel. Try out a whole foods, high quality ketogenic diet, and then compare the two. See how you feel. You might respond differently. You got to test it out for yourself.
Yeah, I dig it actually as a little like 1 to 2 day reset. Like just coming back from Thailand, I felt so bloated and puffy and just kind of like fatigued. And I just did 1 day of just carnivore, and boom, I feel nice and tight.
So you also call that a protein sparing modified fast. So that's we know what that is, and so we know that's beneficial. And so there's a lot of reasons why that can be good for people. And yeah, so I mean that is a good point too. You don't have to do it for a month at a time. Like you can do it for 2-3 days. I mean, that's pretty much what I've done as well. I mean, I had a little bit of greens yesterday, but woke up at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
and then I had a sausage at 4. Like it's a giant sausage. I don't know, I think it's a Peterson's farm sausage or something. And then, chicken. So I wanted to switch it up.
There's another thing, just like the things that you learn on diet experiments is I learned that, eating only animal products is possible. Like I would have never thought to do that before trying a carnivore diet for a couple weeks.
So now you have that tool in your toolbox. And so now you can use a different tool if you want. Should you only use that tool permanently? No, that'd be stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not like I'm going to have a toolbox full of tools, buy one new tool, and then throw the rest out. Why would you ever do that?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a faulty mindset. Is over the last few years, I've gone about it as I need to find the right way to eat, and then I can just
the only way.
And then once I find that perfect macro distribution, I can just eat that exact same thing day after day after day, and I can be shredded superhuman, amazing mental capacity, and I'll just never have to think about what to eat again.
So yeah, nutrition and types of nutrition are tools in a toolbox. And for specific goals, for specific reasons, you're going to use different tools. I think that I think there are fundamentals. Like, again, you must eat real food first and then build tools on top of that. But if you don't eat real food, it's like using a giant club and trying to hammer something into the wall. Like you're going to fail. You're going to get the thing in the wall. You're going to get food in your mouth, but you're doing like an idiot. So stop doing that. Eat real food. It's a constant. Like you can't argue that amount. Like you do not try to argue me in the fact that like you need to eat real things. It's not. There's no argument there. And if you do, come on the podcast. I'll debate you, please.
We'll have it. We'll have it soon.
Next up.
Okay. Final question of the episode. Darren with 3 N's, Liu, asks, how did you feel overall after going off a bit on a tangent with keto on your Thailand retreat?
So Darren is a big carnivore. He's switched to the carnivore diet.
Oh, cool.
So I'll be interested to hear your feedback, Darren, on my newly updated thing about how you plan to do the carnivore diet over a long period of time. But how did I feel after going a bit off tangent on the Thailand retreat? So this is how I did it. I did Japan first, then Thailand, then Hong Kong.
That's awesome.
Japan, I definitely was off the keto train a little bit because I was eating tons of sushi. I had some ramen. But I was still working out really hard there because I had really good access to gyms. And I was taking blood sugar support, the product we have, as well as gluten pills. And I actually felt fine. And so I think that I was just at such a clean point that it didn't really matter to me. Like the only thing that changed was I felt a little more hungry throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when I was hungry and I needed to eat now. And that's how it affected me. Like I wasn't bloated. I didn't feel awful. I was also still wasn't drinking that much. Like I wasn't affected that way. Like it's usually when I go on a trip and I eat a little bit shitty, but then I also drink is when it gets me. So I would say that in Japan, like I ate super high quality, like really, really good food. And I still made better choices. So like, for instance, I went to a sushi market and I got a bunch of fatties. I got a plate of fatties. Ooh. But I didn't get rice with them. And so like when I made the choice to not have carbs when that's the case. But like if I were to go to a nice dinner and they were serving things with rice, I would eat the rice. You don't want to offend those Japanese. You know that firsthand.
I brought so much shame on my entire family.
Never do that. And so eat the food when you're there. So
do you feel like you get like decision fatigue as you travel, as the days and weeks go on?
The worst. That's why I like traveling to places that I've been before, where I'm like, oh, okay, this place is great. This gym's here. Stay in this neighborhood, eat these restaurants, like do these things, and like have a little bit of a routine that you can branch out of if you get interested. That's why I like to do it now. Maybe that means I'm getting old. I don't know. Went to Thailand. Actually, it's really, really remarkably easy to eat keto in Thailand.
Yeah,
everything is served with a fork and a spoon, but it's like you have a side of rice, and then everything else is basically vegetables and curries.
You got to just remember to ask for no sugar in the the curries.
So one of the things we did, we talked about this, I think a couple episodes ago with Jeff Knobs. Like we were there together, and vegetable oils. Again, eat real food. We want to avoid that, so we asked for none of that. We also asked for no sugar. So we had a villa on the island for a week, and we actually had food cooked for us every day. And we gave them I think monk fruit and stevia, and all of our own oils. So we had them cooked with coconut oil or palm oil and use, because there's a lot of sugar in Thai food. Use those things instead, and it was like totally fine. And so then they would bring around a bowl of rice, and they would ask if we wanted it, and most people would decline. And they're like,
Yeah.
"Who the hell are these people?" Or like they'd bring out like we wouldn't have
Is this
any
a protest?
Yeah.
Actually, quick fun fact. One of the phrases in Thailand to ask someone how they're doing is to ask, "Have you had rice yet today?"
Yeah, this guy.
Is that a literally translate? That's, I mean,
This fun fact has been dished out. Maybe
talk about using
48
a club,
yeah.
To hammer something. I've said that to anybody that'll listen.
48 times in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Have you had rice yet today?
I have not. I've had eggs, bacon, avocado, sprouts, and ketones. That's all I've had.
That's it.
And a matcha tea. And you brought me a hot sauce, so I'll probably have some of that later tonight. Okay, so in Thailand, I felt pretty good. I felt pretty awesome. I'm trying to think if I even ate really any carbs or anything there. It's like I was.
What about that mango sticky rice?
You're right, I did. So I ate carbs maybe 3-4 times, and I think that 90% of that was mango sticky rice, which is just, it's too good to pass up, man. Mango there with like the coconut stuff they put on it. Oh, and probably coconut water from the coconuts. It's just like it's a different food. And anytime you go to a place and like the thing there is just a different food, like you just have to go for it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like I was the rest of the time keto, fasted a lot, felt great. I could tell I was in ketosis just because of like I could go 9-10 hours without eating, no problem. I wasn't hungry like I was in Japan. That's pretty much like my single barometer of when I am out of ketosis is like, do I get hungry really easily, and does it control my behaviors through the rest of the day? But like again, didn't really eat any bullshit there. It was just all kind of really high quality food. We made sure of it. When I ate out, it was just this curry or what vegetables. What kind of meals were we having?
Yeah, pretty much just meat and veggies and a lot of coconut products.
Yeah, it's delicious.
I'm curious, like when you come back to keto, does it feel like you appreciate it more, like from having been away from it for a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I like it. That's why I do it. I feel good mentally. I feel better mentally when I do it. I feel like I don't feel like I miss anything. Yeah. Whereas like when I eat carbs, I feel like I miss being able to go without eating food. I feel like I feel full in a different way when I eat carbs. I don't like that. So I like missing that. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that like, I feel better. Like also I would say that like a little bloated for sure. How much of that is traveled around and not having a routine and all that type of stuff? Maybe a little bit, but certainly was a little bit bloated, but within 2 days, day and a half of being back here, it's totally fine again.
It's so nice to know that like we have that safety rail. Like even, I mean, I flew off the handle way more than you just described. Yeah. I like, Chris Irving calls it the carb creep. I call it the carb heap. In the back of my, go ahead.
Let's do this. Question was for me, but let's say it's for both of us. So how did you feel? And what were you eating? Like, how were those changes for you?
I was coming from, we did a keto September at Perfect Keto. So I was feeling, very solid on keto, and I kind of stayed as long as I could. I went to Kansas City for a barbecue contest. So going into travels, I always, decide, am I going to try to stay keto or am I not? And if I go, I either go keto or I go a low carbohydrate paleo approach, at least that's my goals. And so I figure, a keto barbecue contest is a great place to be keto. Then I held out as long as I could into the first few days of Thailand. And then, the decision fatigue got me.
You were not keto at that barbecue contest? Didn't you say to like wipe off the sauce with napkins and like
talk about
you probably had
shame.
You probably had so much sugar on that.
So much sugar. I can't, there's literally like 4 to 5 Coca-Colas in, these little bottles of barbecue sauce.
So we are spoiled in Texas where we have dry rub barbecue. Shout out Texas.
Salt and pep, S&P.
Maybe some herbs, whatever. And then you go to Kansas City and it's sauce fest.
Sugary meat.
Sugar sauce fest. So
yeah, I was wiping it off and like my family was looking at me like,
how dare you?
I can't go anywhere without bringing shame.
So you went there, let it fly off. What did that look like for you, and how did you feel?
Boy, it started with, just some rice. And then as soon as I stopped eating keto, then I stopped eating keto, and then other things were all, available to say yes to. And, you try to, stay as paleo and as, appropriate amount of proportions as possible. But I felt that switch flip where all of a sudden I couldn't really like control how much I was eating. Like if something was in front of me, I was probably going to finish it. And I don't like that type of feeling. And, I felt progressively more and more like bloated and uncomfortable, and my workouts were getting a little bit worse and worse. And what was nice is that I always knew that I can just come back to eating healthy again. I knew I would as soon as I got back from the trip. And so like in previous years, I have been so obsessed with just eating well every single morsel of food. And it developed like an unhealthy relationship with being healthy. And so it kind of felt nice that in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, you're flying off pretty good right now, Alex, but like you're going to be just fine in a couple of days of being back to the US.
And did you feel fine?
And in Thailand?
No, when you came back.
I did. It was remarkable. It's like, like your hunger and satiety hormones, they seem to just like kick in, and I just didn't feel as starving as I did in Thailand. Like it just came back completely. Like the sights were familiar, the surroundings were familiar, and I was just back at it.
Do you regret going off the handle in Thailand?
I think if I could do it again, I would still like to do a little bit better than I did, but I don't regret it.
What was your favorite meal?
Oh boy. I just love the freaking curries, man. Like the spice. I realized I love spicy food. I've gone 29 years eating no spice just because I thought I was a wuss and didn't like spice, but I love spice.
Yeah, that's great.
It's exciting.
So, okay, great. That's a good point that you can be not keto for a bit and it's not a big deal. You have these tools in the toolbox, so you can use them. If you have one where you want to experience good local food and you want to enjoy different types of food for a little bit, totally fine. Don't beat yourself up about it. It's okay. Know that if you, for instance, want to lose fat, for example, or you're managing a disease, it's not going to go as well for you. And like you're not going to reach your goal as fast, but it's okay. Like this is a long journey. You can go off path for a little bit and go back on path. Totally fine. No problem. I will say that went to Hong Kong, didn't stay keto there, and felt terrible.
Carb confessional.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it was, man, but like, I was not a fan of the food there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How is it different than Japan and Thailand?
Which, like, Cantonese food and like real Chinese food is just like, I don't know. It's like flavors weren't doing it for me. Like everything was like really, like there, like in Thailand, we could ask no vegetable oil. You can't ask that in Hong Kong. Right?
Just because you can't communicate it?
Can't communicate, or there's no way they're going to have any options.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything was like, and I ate at like really high quality spots. Man, it was brutal. And so like I felt actually pretty terrible after that. But again, came back, flew back, felt awful while I was flying back because of the 2 days I was there eating like that. And then day and a half, I've been back a day and a half and cruising, feel great.
Yeah.
Other than the jet lag.
It's nice like to just know that eating clean and like eating regular size proportions makes you feel great. Like I forget that when I go off the handle a little bit, but it's like, it's my rock.
Totally fun. Cool. They're the questions today. Good work, Con. So you got any more questions for us? Hit me up on Instagram. I answer every question. So Dr. Anthony Gustin. You can get Alex's confessionals, carb confessionals.
Launching a new podcast, Carb Confessionals.
What is it? Slam Chops?
Slam Chops 1.
Yeah.
And when you're asking questions,
context.
Do the context. Ask, pull it out, pull the thread a little bit further.
Good tip. Until next time.
We're out.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Keto Answers podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, but even if you didn't, I would love a review. Go over to iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcast, and pop in a review so we can get found by more people, get better guests, have the information that you need. So please go to iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcast, and leave us a review. And if you're new to keto, head on over to perfectketo.com/podcast and enter your email for all our top tips and guides on getting started with the ketogenic diet. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.